We were described as the worst England touring side in the history of any sport.
I've never played that drug before.
The top teams have played at a level that has never been seen before in a World Cup. I genuinely believe that.
Especially in the quarterfinals, those two quarterfinals were out of this world. Record them, send them over. Somebody who's never heard anything about rugby will like, shit, I want to know more.
I think it's a very, very special sport, and hopefully people are a little bit more invested because we need it. We need it as a sport. We need to elevate the game, and I think this tournament's done a good job of showcasing that.
Hello Dream Team, welcome along to this week's main show of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, brought to you by our very good friends at Continental Tyres. The dust is settling on all things France 2023, and we thought we'd have a bit of a whip round with the good, the bad and the ugly of the tournament that was. From your perspective, Ben, it's lovely to have you alongside. You have been right in amongst it all. Was it everything you wanted it to be? Parking French results to one side. Microphone helps in these instances, Mike. Okay, now. Can we keep that rolling? Because
you should have just kept on going with the fake.
It's only show 350 that we've done together. I'm Ron Burgundy. Right.
He was very vocal, and then after the quarterfinals, I haven't heard from him.
Yeah, he's gone very quiet.
He's gone disappeared into it. I just keep getting pictures of glasses of red wine saying I'm still depressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you separate France, the team, from France, the tournament?
Not really.
No,
not really. But you can also celebrate the Irish fans who made it a special event. You know, I think. Look, in a moment where we're looking at where should rugby go, how do we promote this? How do we break boundaries? How do we extend a little bit the game? You just need the metro filled with green jerseys and everybody singing along. You just need the stadiums to be absolutely ram-packed with some quality rugby, especially in the quarterfinals. Those two quarterfinals were out of this world.
Yeah.
Record them, send them over. Somebody who's never heard anything about rugby will like, shit, I want to know more. So that you can't really, whether France won or lose, you can still celebrate those moments because they are precious. They're the go forward. But of course, when you've been waiting for this event for so long and I've been praying for so long for everybody to be fit, and then little things happen and Romain Tamac drops, and then obviously the performance is not really there, and then the poor Antoine Dupont breaks his cheekbone. Of course, we were disappointed, and that heartbreak will last for a long, long time. But like we were saying before the show, like Tin said, hopefully this quarterfinal for France will be the 2007 New Zealand France quarterfinal, and that pain, that scar will fuel them for the next couple of years because 75% of that team will still be there. So it's still a heartbreak. It'll still be there for a long, long time. But actually, I don't want it to go away because I hope it will be positive energy.
In terms of the knockouts in particular, I think only Argentina and New Zealand was a blowout. Argentina obviously got past Wales by more than a score, but all the others finished with last play drama and one-score games, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, I think we'll go into the positives, negatives of this tournament, and people always thought this draw was going to be a negative. I actually think it's been one of the biggest positives. I think the fact that you...
Because you support England.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. But this
is going to take time to heal. It's quite clear.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to speak from this comment. Do you want to go out in the quarterfinals or do you want to go in the semi-finals? To me, it's just a week. But when you're Ireland and you've never got past the quarterfinals, they'll probably take a
Don't laugh. You're already fighting with the box.
No, I'm not because I wanted France to be there. I wanted Ireland to be there. I wanted it to be a Northern Hemisphere takeover that we all talked about, but it didn't end up that way. And look, you got 4 games that were so evenly matched on both sides. You got 2 epic games of a different level, but then you still got another 2 games that were interesting to watch. And so it doesn't work if you get a blowout of any game. And we've only had one. And I feel that how we were set up made the pool games so interesting. You know, last game, still Portugal versus Fiji. There was a way of Australia somehow staying in the tournament.
Yeah.
And I think we had all those games. There was one group that was sort of done and dusted, but every other group had something to play for on the last weekend of the pool stages, and that's all you want. You don't want meaningless games, and we had games that meant everything every week of the tournament.
Yeah.
We had 4-5 World Cup finals on the lead up to the World Cup final.
Can we pick one moment then? Let's do our Continental Tyres showstopper moment of the final. Can you think of a moment that swung the game, changed the game, will stand the test of time?
Do you know what sort of summed it up? The physicality that was out there on in the final was incredible. And Cheslin Colby is not the biggest guy, but his hit on Will Jordan, who was on eight tries, probably arguably the player of the tournament, and to pick him up, spin him around, I was like, I don't even know what just happened. And then Quagga Smith came and ripped the ball in flight. I just think it was a momentum stopper. So the All Black, this wheel was starting to churn. It was faster. They missed so many opportunities, and it was just another nail in the coffin of like, I'll get one over on my guy. So I'll say just stop momentum for the All Blacks. And I just thought it was incredible. I didn't quite understand how it happened. That suddenly you think, well, Will Jordan could create something. He's got picked up, spun around, and someone's nicked the ball.
Yeah.
And it's South Africa going the other way. It sort of summed up the whole game. So I'm going to go for that.
But another couple of momentum stoppers were just absolutely bone-crushing tackles by Pete Stiff du Toit.
Yeah.
My God, he was good, especially in the second half. I mean, he is scary, intense, and tough. And a couple of minutes before that, there's a counter-attack from inside their own 22. Chuck 2 passes, something can happen. Jordy Barrett is catching the ball high. He drills him from the side, breaks a couple of ribs of his, and gets back up. He killed momentum, exactly what Tin said. When they thought they potentially could try and do something, create something crazy towards the end, he was always that massive number 7 with the blonde hair you can't miss, who was just crushing people in half.
Actually, I even forget, is that tackle by Aranza on Ione? Rico, when he got the ball, the pass over the top, I was like, well, he's in. No one's catching him. And then from nowhere, fucking Superman flies in, whips him off to get. That is what wins you World Cups. That desire and making the correct calls at the correct times and doing the right thing endlessly, repeatedly. And that's what South Africa did. They repeatedly did show-stopping moments throughout that game.
Big moments all. I tell you what, let's move on to our team of the tournament, our Tommy Hilfiger team of the tournament. Let's go through it in all. We have picked Ox at loosehead, Perto Malvaca at hooker, Frans Malherbe at tight head, Ebenet Sabeth and Franco Mosta in the second row, Peter Steph du Toit, Ben Earl at open side and Ardy Surveyor at 8, Aaron Smith, Richie Mwanga, Mark Talea, Bundy Aki at 12, Jesse Creel outside him, Will Jordan and Hugo Keenan. Debate, discuss, disagree, I'm sure. But if we were to go through that, I mean, it's a South African pack essentially with an All Black backline with a sprinkling of Irish, French, and English in there as well. If you were to look at a player of the tournament from that, Peter Steph, Ardy, just sort of throwing a few names out. Will Jordan went well, possibly not necessarily in the final, but who would you pick as your Tommy Hilfiger player of the tournament?
If I'm honest, like Ben Earl, in a team that's not playing particularly well and not expected, he was outstanding through I would almost say he carried the England team. But, Ardy Surveyor has been incredible. 2 player of the match performances, which only Bundy Aki did, and he only did it in 5 games. So you've got to give a shout out to Bundy Aki. I mean, realistically, Andre Pollard could have almost been in there.
Yeah.
I mean, rocks up late, smoking his Cuban.
For a couple of hours' work.
Yeah, literally just came in. What, you want to win a World Cup? Sit down, lads. I'll do this. So yeah, I think we both agree. Ardy Surveyor has been incredible. The way he's led this team, the way he's I love the way when you watch him speaking to a referee, he listens to a referee and he never argues. He never looks. That'd be people's beef about Faz. When Faz is having a chat with the referee, it looks like he's arguing with him. Whereas Ardy Surveyor manages to get his questions across whilst looking like he's listening. And I just think he's the epitome of what this All Black team is, and he's unbelievable. I've never to carry that aggressively all the time, and yet look like you're like, yeah, bro, I've got you, bro. Yeah, relax, yeah, it's good. Bam, 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 bam. I just love him as a bloke. I think it's amazing.
Switch on.
Yeah,
hugely impressed just a shout out to Ox Enche, off the bench, loose head prop, human cannonball, machine in the scrum. Like,
is it true that he's actually wider than he is tall?
It's a great rumour to start.
He genuinely looks it for sure.
He's a bit like SpongeBob.
I was like, I'm pretty much sure I can wear those shorts. Like, it's an all-in-one suit.
He actually slides into them rather than puts them on. He steps across into his clothes.
No, but if you're gonna build a little scrummaging machine, you're gonna build that human piano on wheels. Wide, thick, not too tall, big chunky legs, and dynamic. And he's been absolutely tremendous off the bench, doing so much.
Was it him who catch the ball
behind the head? But overall, I've got to say Ardi Savea for me is the player of the tournament. Just exactly what Tin said. You look at him; he's not the biggest bloke. We've been relentlessly saying, how big the Safas are. He's definitely not the biggest bloke on that pitch, but he's the most dynamic, skillful. He's got a ton of energy level. He's aggressive. He's great at chatting. His attitude is fantastic, quite positive, with always a smile on his face. For me, he's been tremendous. And on top of that, he's picking up the captaincy of Sam Cane, giving it back. It feels like there's no change for him. He's been out of this world good.
For any kid who's watching, watch Ardi Savea about never giving in.
Yeah.
Like, any carry that you ever did, don't accept a tackle. Just keep driving your legs because you don't know what might happen. And the amount of times he spins out one or he gets through one, Talia's the same, Mark Talia. But if you never give in, and that's sort of what Ardi Savea gives you. It's like just fight for everything that you get.
Do you know, I watched the final from the North Stand, and the All Blacks very, very gracious in defeat, all waited, and then when South Africa went off on their victory lap, they all went in. Bar Ardi Savea, who waited and waited and waited. And you just think there's a lot of change happening, massive change happening in that Springbok squad, but big change happening in that All Black squad as well. The likes of Whitelock, Mwanga will move on, Aaron Smith, etc. You just feel that Ardi Savea is going to be the guy to carry that forward with Scott Robertson. It'd be very interesting to see, hopefully, if he is there in 4 years' time. But well done, unanimous decision. Well done, Ardi Savea, who is our Tommy Hilfiger player of the tournament. And you can shop the new collection in one of the Tommy Hilfiger stores or online. Check out the link in our bio if you want to do that. And make sure you sign up to become a Tommy Together member. Thank you to Tommy Hilfiger for supporting the rugby community, their chosen family. A few other bouquets to throw out. Game of the tournament.
You can't take apart those two quarterfinals in Paris, New Zealand, Ireland, or France, South Africa. They were so good. Like I said to you, you record them, you ship them to any rugby fan in the world or any future rugby fan in the world. This is the way that you're going to hook people to it. So I don't think you can spread them apart. But if you had to pick one, I still think it would be the France-South Africa, just for the first half, not for the outcome, but for the quality of the rugby in the first half, the intensity, the pace, everything happened, and it was an outstanding game.
We were completely blessed in this World Cup. I mean, you overlook Ireland, South Africa, which was classed at that time as the greatest World Cup game we've ever seen, and then you put the quarterfinals together. Portugal, Fiji, not for what it meant in the tournament, but just two teams that went toe to toe, physicality, everything else. We had the tier 2 nations stepping up and playing games. Portugal probably arguably the team of the tournament in terms of looking at it from a different perspective. But you had games that were just incredible all the way through. You had, as I said, you had 4 or 5 World Cup finals played in one tournament because of how the draw fell and how all the teams stepped up. You had 5 teams who could potentially win it, and on any other different, you play those quarterfinals on a different day. All the results could be the other way around. And I think it's very rare that any worldwide competition gets that level of intense quality in one weekend. Yeah. And we've been very lucky. If people can't get hooked on the Rugby World Cup after the back of this, France has given us the playing field, and that we hope that they be at the final dance. But unfortunately, that's the nature of World Cup rugby. It's brutal. But how they then manage the stadiums, the crowd, the atmosphere, and how they do atmosphere is incredible compared to what we talk about, Twickenham and everything else. I think we've just been very, very lucky this year, and hopefully it kicks everyone into loving rugby. 11 million, as you said, the more the merrier. Come to the party. Come play.
Come play. Coach of the tournament.
Rassi and Ninebeur for sure. That duo just mastered leadership and strategy, changing teams, mind games during the week, which I thought were delightful. I'll still watch the press conference when he names the England team 1 to 23. But I say, oh, by the way, we prepared this if this guy plays. And imagine if you're Steve Borthwick watching this, like shit. I can't even pick it if it's my team now because you don't want to say that you're playing in his own hands.
Who owns it?
It's just brilliant.
Who owns it?
It's brilliant. It's funny. It's part of the game. It's clever. I really enjoy this. He did the same thing with France the week before. And again, the culture with which you can allow yourself to pull your captain after 50 minutes, whilst you already pulled him at 44th minute in the quarterfinal, and he doesn't look like he cares. Team first attitude. Yeah, I thought they were brilliant.
I agree with everything Ben said. I do think he gets some things wrong, and he steps over the mark a little bit. But when he gets it right, we talked about this in the England week. Where does Steve go? I mean, ultimately, we played it out perfectly. I feel that we affected everything that he did. We counteracted it, but we lost the last 10 minutes of the game. I'll give a shout out to Patrice Laziske and what he's done with that. I still think Portugal have been incredible this tournament, and hopefully we see more of them.
And harsh for France to not even have, to be of the top 4 of the contenders for Coach of the Year. I mean, they still turned this thing around for the last 4 years. Sean Edwards, Fabien Galtier, all those guys have done a tremendous job.
Point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard when you only pick 4. Can we pick 8? And then everyone gets recognised.
Just a quick word, if we're talking about Rassi. Sir Clive Woodward has called for Rassi as Director of Rugby in England.
Yeah, I mean, that makes the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Right,
but, it's what suits.
Would Steve benefit from someone in that role? You think of a Dave Rennie or a...
No, I don't know.
Even Ian Foster.
I think when I look at Razzie, I think there's always going to be big issues underneath it when you have a character like that. So I reckon they have to fight a lot of fires internally.
Yeah.
But yes, they
put.
put.
You're quite used to that after.
But they put something forward. But to go right, let's go straight to Razzie when you've got Andy Farrell, Stuart Lancaster, all these guys who are doing amazing things, who are English and will be passionate about what we do, to then just jump overseas to go get it in a World Cup where...
Yeah, but Razzie's done back-to-back
but
World Cup wins.
Yes,
and
I get it.
But it works for South Africa because he's a former Springbok player too. You can't even touch the genuineness about what he's doing and how he's portraying himself because he's got it in his blood, in his heart, And you can't just take that, bring it to Twickenham and think he's going to do the same thing.
And in another day, this is the thing, it's a snapshot. It's a snapshot thing because they made it to the final. On another day, they might all be out in the quarterfinals, and then everyone will be raving about Sean Edwards, Fabian, Andy Farrell. So it's a complete snapshot about ridiculousness that is trying to sell papers. And look, I love Clive. We achieved what we achieved together, but it's a completely ridiculous statement.
Let's take that as a no, Sir Clive, from Tins. Best atmosphere, stadium, fan experience. You've been to most of them. Which was the game which you thought pre-game? You thought, wow.
Oh, definitely France Africa. Out of this world. Much better than the opener. The opener was weird. It was 36 degrees.
It's because
the
All Black fans aren't loud.
That's very true.
They are rugby fans who don't cheer.
Yeah, New Zealand Ireland was out of this world because of the Irish.
Yeah.
But actually, France Africa took it to a whole different dimension during the game. Not before the game because we were slightly pooping ourselves, but during the game, it was out of this world.
I love how he says that. Slightly pooping ourselves.
You're welcome anytime. What about? We should give a nod actually to some of the games between the tier 2s as well in terms of atmospheres, and credit to the French rugby public. I don't think you will find a more passionate, knowledgeable supporter set than you get in France. And games like Namibia, Uruguay, where you have 50,000, it's just so special for the overall picture of the tournament.
Yeah, unbelievable. And that's why they've put on a show. France is, I think, globally the leader in terms of viewing figures for rugby. And they turned up. They absolutely turned up. Obviously lessened a little bit once France had gone out, which is understandable because a lot of people were gutted. But they play that. There was in every game after they went out, there was still allez bleu, allez bleu, and the music they played, the French songs that they played. I think. They gave us a beautiful backdrop to a great World Cup.
People bought into it.
Yeah.
There's a thing to be said that this rhythm of having 3 games per week, sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is maybe great for broadcasting views. But if there's a way, I don't have a perfect solution, but if there's a way of spreading out those games, so you can allow to only have Namibia, Uruguay on this one day, so all the rugby fans can go to it and still enjoy those games, it would be a brilliant way of doing it. Keeping those teams maybe even after the quarters, I don't know how they can do it.
Yeah.
Run the qualifiers for the next World Cup during the quarterfinals.
Like a plate competition or whatever, and you get your rankings from 1 to 10.
Just a general thumbs up, thumbs down on player welfare. It feels like it's been a better tournament. Is it therefore safe to say that the changes that have been made around tackle height, jackling, etc., has paid dividends?
I think the referees did a very good job in the first weekend and 2 weekends of setting a precedent, because then we haven't really until the final we haven't really had to talk about yellow cards or red cards, and the irony that it happens in the final. But I think they actually found a way of setting a good precedent, and everyone's played in there. Everyone knows in tournament rugby how important having 15 men on the field is, and it's just a shame that it sort of reared its head in the final.
Anthems. We're sort of flying through the hot topics here. Anthems. Thumbs up, thumbs down. There's obviously a bit of change in between.
For me, look, I'll go totally against the general opinion. I'm totally thumbs up, because I think it's a brilliant initiative. Remember we said about it, right? It's these kids that will use music and musical excellence to actually get out of really, really crappy personal situations, through scholarships to get back on track with life. And their pinnacle of that was that they got to sing the anthems. Was it fitting, the rhythm, the tempo, the pitch of voice with the first opener? No, it did not work. But they flipped it around, and fair play to Mika, the artist who actually did the pre-match show for the final last night. And he flipped it around. In 48 hours, they re-recorded every single anthem for everybody, took the pace up, got the pitch a little bit down, and then it worked. And they were pre-recorded, it was okay. And towards the end, nobody said anything. What I'm pissed off about is that everybody was destroying the first 2 games. Nobody celebrated the last one. It actually worked well. Look, it's a good initiative. Yep. They tried well. Is it exactly what we're used to? No, so be it. Who cares? Some young kids got the moment of their lives, and I thought it was well deserved.
Well said. Tier 2 team of the tournament.
Portugal, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
I think they came. I said this. I think I've said this numerous times. If I was a top 14 coach or a Premiership coach, I'd be hunting those Portuguese players.
They're not going to be amateurs for a long time.
I mean, actually, quite a few of them are dentists, aren't they? So they're probably making more than rugby players anyway. So they might not actually.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just employ your teammates.
Yeah. They might not ever come back.
He was doing market research.
Yeah, exactly.
So look, I think Uruguay deserve a shout out. Obviously, Fiji fall into a 1.5. Is that the right way of putting it? But those first 2 games against Australia and Wales, they were just incredible. So I think everyone sort of stepped up. There's one. I think Romania got the hardest group, so they got pumped a few times. But that's what when you're playing 3 tier 1s who are on fire. That's the downside of it. But I think tier 2. I hate calling them tier 2, but they played their role in this World Cup, and I think they've gone away going, people want to see more of them.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch more of those guys, and with the reshuffle of how they're going to do things in the future, is it fully inclusive? We'll wait to see. Have they half-assed it, or could they go deeper into it? I think they could have gone deeper, but we'll wait and see.
But also, you mentioned Portugal. It's the way they played. That was brilliant. They didn't, it's not like one cheap intercept last minute to win them the game that nobody saw with, 27 mistakes. They played like Fijians against Fiji and beat them at their own game. And I thought that was sensational. That's why they touched people's heart, because they were like, well, fair play, lads. They really got stuck into it, didn't hold back, went full fire. Uruguay were the same. And that's when you recognize their greatness out of the heart.
It hasn't all been a bed of roses. A couple of bits, I suppose, just to sort of reflect on. Biggest disappointment, team-wise?
Team-wise, I love them dearly, but I was expecting more out of Samoa with this rotation and new players, and I've got a couple of mates in there. I was so excited about seeing them perform. They had some sensational players in there. They had great management with Tana. You know, the story was cool when you have Tana Umaga, I think it's Mapusua, and you have Fritz Lee, and then you have Sopoaga, and everybody's coming back. You've got 2 or 3 world champions with the All Blacks coming back for their home country. Look, they're players that everybody knows in the Premiership or in Top 14 or everywhere. They are sensational. And then they play 1-2 games. You're like, blah, you know, they're just not there. They front up against England, sensational game, almost miss it, but that was a little bit too late for me. So in terms of purely one team that I was so much hoping and cheering for to do better, on the side of the draw that allowed them, you never know, they could have gotten to the corners. That would be a brilliant scenario. They underperformed in my eyes.
Australia. Plain and simple. We need Australia competing at a high level than they are right now, and I think I do think in terms of quality of player, they have got very, very good players throughout the board, but they just can't pull it together. So we need especially with where the rugby landscape is for the next 7.5 years, 8 years, we need Australia back, and they're poor at the moment.
Do you know how many people went through the turnstiles roughly? I think I'm right in saying it was around about 2.3 million fans who went through the turnstiles. So it seems a shame to be picking out 1 or 2, but we obviously had that really unsightly incident of fighting at the England-Fiji game. Thank you to the South African fan who was sick down my back at the final. We've had...
I paid him to do that.
Yeah, good on you. I'm amazed it wasn't you, actually.
I took him to the bar, and he was like, I'm sat behind Alex Payne. I was like, right, shot.
Yeah, perfect. We also had quite a lot of booing and things like that. It is 2023 and everyone's angry about everything, but are those instances on the rise, or is it just part and parcel?
Oh, come on. Booing's always been a part of it because, still...
I then extrapolate that, I suppose, into a lot of the criticism.
Yeah, look, I think obviously the fighting is not something you see it normally at a rugby game, and I don't think it would generally happen. I think people should have probably stepped in earlier, actually, rugby fans. Remember what you are. We step in before that happens, and someone should just take people aside and calm down. The best thing was you on the train. So we were on the train, and that guy those 2 guys went head toe to toe. And Alex turns around and gives me his bag and says, just in case. I was like, well, what are you going to do about it?
I was like, both of them. Not often it happens.
I don't know where you pulled the gum shield from, and then you got your gloves out.
Bit of Vaseline on the eyebrows. I was ready to go. It was like 3 o'clock on the metro, and I was ready to rumble.
Why are you giving me everything? I feel that I'm going to have to stop this.
You went down the carriage, and I thought, there are a couple of women and children here. Someone has to tidy this up.
But
it ain't going to be me, but I'm ready if I need to be.
Something.
Were you one of the women or the children?
Just in case I need to be ready. I was like, really? Look.
You never know.
The fighting thing is never condonable, and we're better than that as a rugby fans. And we don't know what happened, what was said, how it started. So, but the booing is part of, whether you think it's great, whether you think it's not, it's part of the game. A lot of the time, especially in the last few weeks, it's been French fans who, the referee, because they refed his game, but that's part of it. People are allowed to be emotional. It's fine. It's part of being at a World Cup. It's part of being a player. You've got to overcome all the bullshit and the sounds that are around you and focus on what you do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you look back at the individual games, it's been a world-class Rugby World Cup. We'll doff our caps against South Africa and managing to get through it. Hat-trick of 1-pointers. And that's all it comes down to. You've got to take everything that comes with that.
Can we have a very quick word on England as well, who came into this tournament with their captain banned, having lost every game that they'd played. They had a red card in minute 1 of their opener. They have probably taken the most boos of anybody. They have had a lot of indecision around selection. Borthwick's had a lot of heat in the media, and yet they've battled their way to 3rd. Is that, in isolation, something that they should be very proud of? And how big a kicker is that for England moving forwards? Are they back, or is this just a moment in time?
No, look, I am intrigued by England. I think you'd say that Argentina's selection is a little bit of a nod to what's coming in the future and the Six Nations. The biggest thing we need to work on is our attack game. I think we have, King Kev has done a great... There's question marks about everything every part of our game. Defence, what we were as a team. Are they all on the same page? Are we everything else? There's a changing of the guard. The likes of Ben Youngs will go. Whether Manu goes, there's a few question marks about a few other players. But England are a 3/4 team at the moment. They've got 3/4 of the skill sets that you need. They need to work on their attack game. They need to embrace what they are. And at the moment, we still haven't figured out what we are. To finish third and still not know how we're going to go about our business is remarkable. And I think it's a full sort of credit to Steve as what he's done with the group and bringing them together. And actually, I think they were really tightly bonded. But there is work to be done still. If we want to go and play against Ireland, who aren't going away, France, who aren't going away.
Summer tour to New Zealand.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. We can't, I don't think, playing the way that we played. They played an incredible game against South Africa, but that game's not going to win you. That's not going to win you games against France, and that's not how we play. We don't have big men like South Africa. We have to figure out. I go back to the point of Henry Arundel not touching the ball once in the game is a joke. You looked at the first play of the game for New Zealand South Africa. They just moved it wide, and then they kicked on an edge. We've never moved it wide and kicked on an edge, and I just think we need to figure out who are our players, who do we want to see with the ball in hand, and how do we get it to them, and then you work everything out off the back of that.
What about your view on England?
Fair play at sticking together, at holding on and embracing.
Well, they're better than France, so
of course they are. Yes, it's the pure reality
This
of.
is brutal. This is brutal for you.
He's rubbing it in massively, but yeah, Six Nations will come around. The reality is that they knew what they had to do to get to the quarters. They outplayed Fiji in the quarters, and they almost got themselves into the final, to be honest. So fair play. I generally have a lot of respect for grit, for resilience, for sticking together. Are they the best rugby team in the world at the moment in terms of rugby played? Absolutely not, and they know it. But they never pretended like they were either. They were extremely conscious of their flaws. So I just have a lot of respect for the grit, the courage that it takes, and the resilience just to keep on going. So fair play to them. A lot has to be done still to get back to the real highs of where England rugby should be. You got to sort out the club rugby aspect. You got to sort out the atmosphere I took it in, but that will come with better games. You got to sort out, an ex World Cup coach saying that you need to throw in Rassi Erasmus there. That's just not really helping the whole situation. But if you do so, then you will allow your Genji and all that new generation of players. Freddie Stewart, who was sensational in the semi-final, Arundel, and all those guys. Yeah, they are absolutely very, very talented. They're all coming to France because it's a better country and they're going to have fun. And don't worry, we'll improve them for you. Then we'll chuck them back.
It's about time. We've upskilled every single player from every nation on the planet for the last 10 years. So it's about time someone else did it. Yeah.
Very quickly, if you were to pick a British Airways high flyer of the tournament from an England perspective, it would be
100% Ben Hill. And it just makes this tournament has made it look mad that Eddie didn't pick him. He's been that player for at least 2 years, and I'm very lucky to know him on quite a personal level. And the frustration that he's gone through about what he's done for Bristol Sarries and how good he was, and then just to completely be overlooked, and then to step up at the biggest stage and play that level consistently. Plus, if you add in the what Amazon did with that, and you watch him as a bloke as well, and the issues that he goes through, and how he has to talk about who he was and recognising his flaws, I think it's been outstanding in what he's done.
Well done, Ben Earl. Our British Airways High Flyer England Player of the Tournament. And British Airways, thanks to their support, have been bringing original people, places and cultures together for more than 100 years. You just know Ben will be celebrating that accolade like it's a turnover.
Woo! It's like it's winning the World Cup.
Good on you,
no,
Ben.
It's not.
Highs and lows, swings and roundabouts. Do you know what we're going to finish with, actually, is our City Index Tour Tales, which has sort of turned into our fans' appreciation section. City Index, global provider of spread betting and CFD trading. If you were to give out a prize for the best fans at Rugby World Cup 2023, where would you give it?
I'd give it to Irish fans. To be fair to them, they lit up the place in the most beautiful way. In the same way that you can't shy away from the problems in the stands. You said about the fighting, about the lack of beer in the opener. Those are
what
problems.
beer there was 85% head as well.
Foam.
In a different world, that's
No,
all right.
but the same way, you need to absolutely acknowledge it, and that's an issue, and we need to deal with it. But then when you have Ireland, Scotland, and they beat the world record of pints drank at a rugby game, I mean, that's a title you want to hold. It's true. The most pints poured ever at an international rugby game. That's the type of statement on your CV that you'd be proud of. But the Irish fans lit up the place. They were absolutely everywhere. And we were talking about Paris because everybody saw it. I was in Nantes for Ireland-Tonga. The whole place was green. People were loving them. All the bar owners and restaurant owners like, this is Christmas, and we're having fun. So it was brilliant. Hats off to them. They lit up the place. They really lived up to their reputation and did their country proud.
I thought about it last night actually when I was leaving the stadium, and they were like, "You've got to be out by 12:15." I was like, "Just imagine if Ireland were in the final." Oh. Good luck at getting them out by 12:15. They'd be still on the pitch singing "Zombie" by that time. We need that. That's what makes sport special, and we need more of that.
Good on them. Well done, Ireland fans, though. I think it is fair to say that you have led the way in terms of the cheering, the supporting, the colour, and the ale drinking.
The best thing was how everyone repurposed Zombie as well.
Do you know,
it was Razzie.
As I left last night and I got onto the metro, it was packed with fans from all around the world, but Ireland's call rang out, and I thought that was a nice little nod. I think that backs up what you're saying in terms of fans of the tournament. And thank you to City Index, who offer spread betting and CFD trading across thousands of markets. Thank you to the Ireland fans as well for the joy that you have brought. Let's sum it up then. Let's round off what has been, God, it feels a long time ago that we did that Royal Pod, and that was a couple of days before the tournament began. I feel like I've aged a decade. I've drunk my body weight.
I can't believe that was 2 days before the first game.
It's extraordinary. I mean, it has been a hell of a roller coaster, and it is South Africa, arguably, who are the biggest, hardest stone to erode, who have stood tallest for longest. But how will you remember, I know it's only been 12 hours, but how will you remember and reflect on Rugby World Cup 23?
Well, a lot of pride, to be honest. I hope that France stepped up to the occasion in terms of logistics, of literally welcoming the world to our beautiful country. And I think I'll remember two things. I'll remember, people telling me, irrespectively of the team that you were supporting, say, what a country, what a place. What a welcoming. We want to come back. That's what it's all about. And then secondly, what a sport. When we're a little bit hesitant and the world is a little bit gloomy and sad, and sport is there to play its role of putting smiles on people's faces and having fun and embracing, the social mix of what rugby represents. And I think we lived up to it. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty. The sun is completely gone. The wrong team won lifted the trophy, obviously. But in the end, it was a beautiful moment of putting sport where it's there to get people to interact, have fun. And France was there to be the right host, and I hope we rose to the occasion. So I'm proud, tired, ready to move on.
Ready to go to bed.
Proud.
Yeah.
36 degrees to 11 degrees and raining.
Sunshine to pouring rain.
That's what happens.
That's rugby.
That's what happens in 8 weeks. I think, I just think it's been a great show. I think it's been a great advertisement for the game. We know how big this is as a tournament in terms of where it stands in global tournaments, and the best thing is I don't think it let anyone down. I thought for 40 minutes in the final, it might have let everyone down to finish with a fucking fizzle out, but fortunately in the second half rebuilt that, and it came down to 1 point. And it's an interesting game, the game that we play and we love, but you've seen the best of it throughout this tournament, and the teams haven't let us down. The top teams have played at a level that has never been seen before in a World Cup. I generally believe that. And if you can't get on board with the gladiatorial way that we play the game and the players and what they are and who they are in terms of people, and the fact that they're down to earth and had a good night out with the flying Fijians and everything else, and how I think it's a very, very special sport, and hopefully people are a little bit more invested because we need it. We need it as a sport. We need to elevate the game. And I think this tournament's done a good job of showcasing that.
Very well said. Well done, guys. It is time for a hot bath, some bed, and a lot of sleep, I think.
Can we make can we make a conscious decision going forward? And this is mainly
Not to
looking
drink
at,
as much.
at producer Tom, that we don't do podcasts at 9 a.m.
No, because I've got to get on a plane and go home.
Well, fuck you.
Fuck you too.
Just imagine if we were recording this at
you.
if we were recording this at
shut up.
2:30, 3 p.m. tomorrow. Or today,
Not hanging around anymore.
Today, just imagine the night I could have had.
Yeah,
I could have
exactly.
been
You
on a
don't
boat.
need any more
I could have been
nights
on the
out.
boat with the
Fantastic
Kiwis
team
last
spirit.
night.
Your
I
wife
feel
I had
the
to-
love.
I had to
It's
ra-
overwhelming.
I had to
It's all
rein
falling apart at
myself
the
in.
This is broken.
Your
I had to
wife
rein
wants you
myself
home.
in.
Your
My
wife wants you.
so
In
when
fact, I'm
I-
not sure she does want
We
you
are
home.
all
when I
doing
spoke
you
to-
keep going.
When I spoke to Zoe this
It
morning,
ends
she
as
was
it
like,
began with
she was like-
bickering aplenty.
I'm gonna
She was
take
like,
over.
"What time?"
I'm
Shut
gonna
up.
take over.
She was like, "What time did you get in?" I said I was in bed at 1:30. She was like, "Bollocks."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I was, because I had to do a fucking podcast at 9 in the morning."
Thank you very much indeed as well. Our final show in Paris comes from Accor. Bear with. Thank you very much indeed to Two Hotel, which is part of Accor Live Limitless. And they've been working with the teams, the officials and the fans, including their own loyalty members, hosting them at hotels across the country throughout the Rugby World Cup. We came here because of the stunning view of La Torre Eiffel behind us, which you can't see
all
because of the
fairness,
drizzle.
Whilst we've recorded this pod,
Yeah.
it popped its head out for a little bit.
Oh, did it?
Misty
And
again,
that's
yeah.
it. And it sort of does feel really, as Rugby World Cup 2023 comes to an end, that the setting behind us probably is fitting. It has been a hell of a tournament. We haven't even mentioned the legions of legends who are bidding farewell to the international game. Well done, and thanks to all of you. Thank you to the fans who have made this such a remarkable spectacle. Thank you to France for what has been a brilliant venue. God, we've had a lot of fun. And we'll get into all of that on our tour.
Me and him will go for a long lunch and some fine red.
Good. Oh, we're good. Be careful of Honest Mike. He kills morale around the country as he goes. We're off on tour at the moment, so if you fancy coming to join us, go and check out cuffandtaylor.com for a ticket. There's a lot of debrief going on around the theatres up and down the country. But for now, we have been the good, the bad and the rugby in partnership with our very good friends, and thank you to their continued support of Continental Tyres. The Good, the Bad and the Rugby is a folding pocket production, and this episode was produced by Tom Edwards. To bed. Bye for now.
What's the opposite of humble? Haskell. Get Haskell.
This is my moment.